Whew. What is going on? What is going on? It is another lovely day here in South Florida. It's hot. Can't even tell you how hot it is, but it's hot. It's hot enough for me to know better. Let's put it that way. There's good music in the background. That sounds like Kendrick Lamar. Yeah. So, hey, let me introduce myself. Hey, I'm Lewis Porter Jr. And you're watching another episode of It's Hot Outside, aka Transparency Agenda. Whew, it is, yeah, it's not brutal hot, but it's hot enough for me to go, this is going to be a long walk. So that sounds exciting. Oh, so thank you everybody for coming out, watching. Today, of course, we're going to be talking about John Byrne, the legendary comic book artist and writer. You know, I keep forgetting that he was an amazing writer too. I can tell you also a personal story of myself and John Byrne. But before we go into that, let's get two topics that have come up. One of them I didn't want to talk about initially, and then I said because it's, well, I'll do that one first. So, someone I know in the industry, specifically, I won't say the name because I've had a problem with this person in the past. This person's had some issues with me, has come out in public and said it. I really didn't like them, and I'm just like, you know, my motto is I don't mess with people who don't want to mess with me. I'm good. We don't have to have a long conversation after that. I'm good. And this person has said this to other people. So something came up yesterday, and this individual said some stuff to somebody, and they took it sort of away, and the company that she worked for didn't like what she said about this person and fired her. And, you know, initially I was like, yeah, come up, it's yeah. And then I thought about it for a little bit. It's like, you know what, man, that's not cool. I mean, I shouldn't be gloating on somebody who just, you know, they just lost their job publicly. It is kind of embarrassing. And it's one of those situations of, you got to be careful what you say and how you say it and the attitude you give people. But you think you're invulnerable, you can do it. But, you know, I'm saying that as a person who, you know, has his own business and stuff like that. I can say whatever I want in my business. I'll say it proud and clear. People want to talk about it. That's great. But, you know, that and it reflects in my business, and I understand that. But, you know, when I'm at work, you know, whoever's paying me, that's the person I'm gonna be talking about. And I guess it's difficult to separate both, but you want to be your authentic self. But, you know, my theory is real simple. You can be your authentic self, just be careful. You know, not everybody wants to hear what you have to say. And worse off, you may say something to the wrong person, and they may get at you. So that's what happened in this situation. And, you know, I'm sorry that they lost their job, because losing a job is tough. And God knows I've lost jobs, and I wouldn't want anyone to be in the shape of, you know, think about where's your next meal going to come from and stuff like that. I mean, that's not funny. But once again, you know, you do have the freedom of speech. But in the words of Ice-T, you get the freedom of speech, but just watch what you say. You know, hey, you know, this person got themselves into this. You know, hey, hope it works out for you. You know, sometimes it's better just to leave some things alone. So that's how I'm going to leave it like that. Next up, this is a little more on the positive side. So I've had a couple people come up to me for help, like I talked about on Tuesday. Was it Tuesday? Tuesday feels like it was so long ago. Some people talked about on Tuesday needing some help on some gaming stuff for their company. So some people have called me. One of them being an old friend. This is kind of always nice. And I pitched some ideas for him. We still got to go in more detail with him, but this is a little more, I'm using the word serious because, you know, they've got a break product. They're trying to branch out into kind of 2 stories. So it's a little more serious, a little more focused stuff. But, you know, I've also talked to a couple third-party guys who are looking for just help and just kicking around ideas and things I saw. And so last night I actually called with one of them, and Skype. I got to say Skype. I shouldn't really say call. But yeah, I guess it's a call, you know, whatever. So we talked about product development and why certain things were and things like that. And, you know, I gave my opinion on certain things, on why I do the things the way I do and why I think they work the way they do. And like one of the things that I noticed on this person, and I get the idea for why he did it, but I think was a bad idea. And I told him, so this is nothing like me telling tales out of school. I told him why I thought it was a bad idea. So basically, he had a product up. The product was like 4 pages. So that includes a cover, 2 pages of content, and the OGL. He was selling the product for like 99 cents. the weird thing that was, well, weird to me was you could go look at the product in the preview, in the full size preview in the PDF. And you could see the first 3 pages. So I thought it was kind of weird. I was like, wait a minute. It's like, you know the first page is the cover, the 2 pages of the content, and the 4th page being the OGL. So this person had purposely put up the entire book for sale with the ability for people to not have to pay for it, download it for free, and not pay him. And I was like, hey, that's not a good idea. I mean, you're in this to make some money. That's your main focus. That's what you should be doing. That's what you should be focusing on. And, you know, he was doing it because, well, I want people who have mobile phones to get better access so they can see it. And that kind of hit me, and I was like, okay, he's definitely thinking of the right thing. It's the right. I get the idea and the reason why. That's not the problem. I don't like the execution of giving away something for free on the potential they may buy it. I mean, that's what you do with the pay what you want. That's kind of what that is. You're going to give away for free and see if people give you money. And, you know, I think that if this individual, but he did it on most of his products. If he stopped doing his products and maybe did a, you know, pay what you want, pay what you like, set up on a couple of the books, he'd get more money. Because as I can tell, and I truly believe that people love to get stuff for free. Those people won't always be your customers. Those people do complain sometimes of, oh, why isn't this like this? Why isn't this like this? And it's like, usually with the way I've set up things is that we take a small section out of our main book to put it in the actually free thing so people can see it, see if they're interested. Spiderweb. See if they're interested. Big spiderweb. Jesus. And see if they want to buy it. And if they don't want to buy it, that's cool. But when people complain, hey, why doesn't the free thing have more stuff in it? I usually write back to them and say, hey, you know, we have a full version. They go, oh, I don't want the full version. I just want the free stuff. That's like, well, dude, I'm not here to, you know, give you free stuff. I got to pay writers to write this and artists to do the artwork for it. You know, so those people I don't worry about. But I really focus on, really specifically for me, focusing on getting more people to purchase your product. And more like really just fundamentally becoming fans of what you do. That's really what this is about. People becoming your fan. Once someone's a fan of yours, you're good. You're in a good spot. It works out for everybody. Everyone should be happy. It's kind of a win-win-win. And that's kind of what I wanted for him. I think he was, you know, based on the numbers he was making, I think it's to be easy for him because he already had, you know, well over, actually almost 50 products available. So I was like, oh, okay. Got a lot of products available, but there were these odd little flaws in there. And I was just like, look, we can save money on these flaws and you can really do some real good stuff. And, you know, and then that was the thing that happened. I was like, oh. And the other thing that I thought was a little more, and this is just more me, and I might even tell you how you can do this too. His graphic design skills were not the best, but he's not a graphic designer. You know, he had stuff that was in 2 columns, clean white page, and that kind of was all it was. And I'm just thinking, like, you know, what could we have done to make this a little bit better? What could have visually could have been done to make this a little bit better? And it was stuff like, so I suggested to him, like I'm telling you all now, there's a book you should pick up. If you are not a graphic designer, hey Chris, and you know nothing about graphic design, and you want to be creative, and you want to do cool stuff, there's a book called The Non-Designer's Graphic Design Book. You can find it on Amazon. It is a well-known, well-respected book in graphic design. I have a copy. I've had several copies. They've done several editions. I've got the most recent one still on my bookshelf. I pick it up once in a while, always read through it. Always something good out of there. I mean, just to reinforce stuff that you know, and sometimes remind you, oh yeah, don't forget this. It is a great book. If you know nothing about graphic design, it is perfect. Because remember, I'm self-taught. I didn't go to school. You know, I'm self-taught before YouTube. You know, back in 90, oh God, what year was it? Yeah, 93. The gentleman who actually taught me went to school, was a graphic designer, been a graphic designer 5-6 years. Jeff, you know, without Jeff, I wouldn't have been doing this. Jeff really started me on my whole lifetime of doing graphic design. And so, you know, I learned that way. And then probably about, it's like 2000-ish, 2003, 2004, like around there, I found this book, and the book was awesome. And this book is perfect. If you don't know anything about graphic design, pick this book up. I used to talk about it all the time on my blog, and I forgot to talk. I haven't talked about it in a while, but that's a book that you should pick up. It should mandatory be in your bookshelf if you're just looking to do design stuff. And it's like, look, I know a lot of you go, design, schmine, what does it matter? A good designer can turn an average looking product into an amazing looking product with ease. And his products, the covers were okay. Solid covers, had a good piece of art, good logo, good strong logo. But interior was just like, whatever, blah. I think that with a couple of changes, so put it in context for everybody. So I told him, send me one of your old ones. I'm going to do the layout. I'm going to relay it out and show him what he could have done to make it look even more awesome. And best of all, I'm going to probably try to find some cheap, free artwork to basically save on cost, because that's what we do here. I'm trying to save you money. And I'm going to relay it out for him, and I'm going to present it to him and say, hey, this is what I did. This is why I did this. This is why I think this is good. And I think the funny part is like, I'm probably not even going to touch his covers. I think his covers are right. I think he understood how to do the covers right. I might suggest a couple things, but solid covers, we can go from there. And, the interior, lots of different options, lots of cool stuff. I'm going to enjoy doing this stuff, because it's fun for me. Layout is fun. So this. And then if everything works out, he'll have a template he can use on future projects. And he'll be wondering, and then I'm sure I'm going to, do it full out, graphic design style, and give him everything he needs to be successful. And he'll probably ask me questions like, well, why do you have layers like this? Like, okay, for example, someone I was talking to today was having an issue with layout because they put one of my backgrounds on the same layer as their text. And I told him, I was like, hey, maybe you don't know this. And a lot of people don't know this, and this is a trick. This is definitely a designer trick. So what I do is anything that's going to be on the background, like on the background page itself, in InDesign, I'll build a separate layer for that. So there'll be one layer for the background, there'll be one layer for the actual text where all that goes, and there'll be one layer for the images. And people are like, well, why would you do that? Well, a couple reasons. If I want to look at the page in pieces, like let me look at the flow. Let me turn off the artwork from the background. Let me just see how that looks. Or let me just see how it flows with the actual paper. Okay, let me just turn the text in the background on. And that's something that I've been doing, forever. But some people don't know that. And for me, I was like, wait, no one knows that? I'm like, oh, that's right. Not everybody has the same experience. Because once again, I started doing design at a publishing house where we had to learn a lot of this stuff to get books ready to get done. I worked in the same company. What is it? Macmillan Press is what it was, but what is it now? I forgot the name. They've changed the name so many times. But if you know the Complete Idiot's Guides, that's where I learned to do layout. The company in Indiana. I can't remember the name of it now. They've changed so many names so many times. But they do all the layout for the Adobe Press books, the Complete Idiot's Guides. The orange ones, the Complete Idiot's Guides, stuff like that. So I worked in those kind of books. And at one point, I don't know if they changed it, but when I was there, here's the scary part. One girl laid out all the books you see for the Complete Idiot's Guides. One girl did all the layout. My fastest when I was doing layout was 10 to 12, maybe even 15 pages tops an hour. I mean, that's a lot. And she was doing 60 pages an hour. That's right. So she'd get a book. She'd have a book laid out in a day. And, if you know anything about anything, imagine laying out a 300-page book every day. And that's what she did. I mean, she just laid out books. And then they come back, to stuff. But it's she did that every single day. And I always thought that was crazy. But, she was amazingly talented. Oh, yes. That's a good choice. So, you can also do the base design using the Pages tool in InDesign, which is true. You should. I believe in doing master pages, setting it all up, and then just basically using that for other stuff. I have style sheets that I've used that have specific coding. Anything I have coded as FT is called flush text, but it's really just full text, your basic text. Then I have BX, which is the bulleted lines. BX, last line of a bulleted line, so there's some spacing issues that I take care of. So I style mine up like crazy, and this is something that anybody can do. And you can learn this in that book I suggested. The Nine Designers Graphic Design book has this information in there. Explain what it does. Like I said, I cannot say this book. Go to Amazon, get this book. And it shouldn't cost you more than $20-$30. I don't even think it's even $30. I think it's probably more like $20. Spend the $20. It'll be the best $20 you ever spent. Yeah. All right, so I've said all that. Now we're going to talk about one of probably the most influential artists, or in the top 2 most influential artists of the 80s, without a doubt. John Byrne. If you don't know who John Byrne is, shame on you. That's the first thing. Second of all, John Byrne is definitely what you consider to be an amazingly influential artist, bar none. The only artist I think at the time period who probably was better than him was George Perez. And I'm going to say that George Perez had very much a style that was very much his style. John Byrne had a style that was very much his style. John Byrne's, of course, biggest claim to fame is that he and Chris Claremont teamed up. I think it was issue 109 or was it 107? I think it's 109 for X-Men, and did their complete run all the way till 143 is when Byrne finally left. So we're talking like 3 years. So Claremont was on the book, and here's something a lot of people don't know, which I always think is funny, but it's kind of cool. John Byrne was doing Iron Fist, and that book is getting very, very popular, and the art was very good and very amazing. And there's a lot of cool things in Iron Fist. I mean, if you didn't know that, that's one thing. Chris Claremont started writing Power Man, and the big push that happened because the 2 characters were not doing well separately in books, and Marvel at the time was like, well, this is silly. Why are we going to pay for the 2 of these books if they're not doing as well? Let's team them up together. So issues 48, 49, and 50, Chris Claremont, pre-X-Men, John Byrne, pre-X-Men, get together and work on this project. There's 3 little issues that go from being Power Man, or was it actually Luke Cage at that point? I think it was Luke Cage Power Man, incorporating Iron Fist into it and becoming the title that we know now, Power Man and Iron Fist, which to me is one of the best buddy, I'd say cop, but it's Heroes for Hire, but cop comic book team-ups. Very, very genre-specific, very, very awesome. The white guy with kung fu and the black guy with bulletproof skin. You can go all day with that one. That's like, okay, that's a win. That's a win. We can do something with this. With some of the great villains, and then, added on top of that, some of the great supporting cast. Misty Knight, great character. Colleen Wing, great character. And just, as a kid reading it, it was very cool. And I got into Power. That's how, kind of I got into after that happened. And I got into issues like 80s, 70s. Was it 80s and 70s? Was it issues? Yeah, that was the time. And then I read up to 100, and then I got really hooked at 100. And, it's just... And for me, it's like, you look at that artwork back then, John Byrne is still cutting his teeth and getting his style that he has now that's perfect, down there. And it's like, wow, man, he really, he got it. He knew it. He knew it then, what was awesome, what looked good on the page, and he presented it so well. And then when he got on X-Men with Claremont, look, let's just be blunt about it. Those guys were more than just popular. They were amazing. They did amazing work together. They couldn't work with each other. The egos got the best of both of them. But the work they did, let's just talk about this. Let's just keep it real. We're still talking about Days of Future Past. When it's still one of the best covers ever made. One of the best stories ever made. And for a 2-parter, we're still talking about this thing. And that thing's been 40 years old. We're still talking about, 30 at least. That's crazy. That's how crazy it is. That's how much crazy the influence of his artwork did. And then let's not even talk about, Death of Phoenix, yeah, that's still been affected. And he wrote that, he drew that. And I always wondered that if Claremont had more input with him. Because I always thought they worked right as a team, but, whatever happened, which is kind of sad. But Claremont understood the characters pretty well. He knew how to tell long stories. And he told, great, amazing stories. And Byrne's artwork would just bring it all home. And then when he left them, he went on to, which is considered to be probably, I'd say one of the greatest runs. Yeah, okay, so he went on to do Fantastic Four. And he took over writing and art on Fantastic Four. And if you've ever read his run during that time period, it is subtly amazing how much great things happened with his work on that. And his run on that, I think, was 60 issues. If I'm guessing off the top of my head, I can't really remember 100%. But if you look at that run, and I think if my timing is kind of right, my timing may be slightly off. A couple years, he got the book. I think was it Keith Pollard doing the book when he got on for the first time? Because like 4 or 5 years earlier, George Perez was doing the artwork in that book. And then, boom, we've got John Byrne doing the writing and artwork. And John Byrne just did some amazing stuff. I mean, he just knocked it out of the ballpark every time. And there's some stories that I did not like. I mean, incorporating the She-Hulk in the book was one of the things I was like, oh my God, I can't stand her. Typical boy, 14 years old, what'd you expect? So, it's like, how could you kick the thing out of the team? He's the, being that kind of stuff, and that's always funny. But, it was true. His artwork really pushed that book in great directions. And something else that he did, that as a writer, I've always respected, the characters they're doing are very got some dust in my eye, are very science fiction based, but there's science. There's legitimate science behind them. I remember when writers used to have to know some basic cool science to do cool things scientifically. There's very few guys that still do that. Warren Ellis does that, talks about the science to the guys using their abilities. A lot of writers don't. A lot of writers just go, oh, they just stand there and do this thing and it just happens. And I was always like, oh, you don't understand how their powers work. Like I was talking this morning with some people I know. Storm has some great superpowers, but people always seem to reflect back to, oh, she throws a lightning bolt at somebody. And it's like, when Byrne and them wrote it, it was, oh, she put him in a torrential downpour, or she gave him hurricane force winds that slammed across the thing. There were some nuances and some cool ideas they did with her powers. But most people were just like, lightning bolts from the hands, yeah, and she flies. Yeah, that's it. It's like, no, that isn't. But once again, when you understand the characters you're working on, and you can bring that information to the character themselves and broaden who they are and visually add onto it, you can only do great things. I mean, yeah, John Byrne you just look at his artwork and the influence it's had. You even talk about Jim Lee, and pretty much, I guess, all the guys from Image were influenced by him because he was doing the stuff that everybody was watching. And then eventually he left Marvel, but I'm sure he burned some bridges and stuff like that and had some issues. And then he did his own independent stuff. And I think he learned the most important lesson that a lot of people don't understand initially, and especially if you're going to do your own thing. And he also was like, geez, probably 10 or 15 years too early, and probably like at least 10 years early. Like, he went on and did some stuff for Dark Horse that was interesting, but not as interesting as doing the stuff he was doing for Marvel, because Marvel had a long history. And, he was getting older in the art scene, and he probably didn't want to do as much work. Like most artists of a certain age are like, I don't want to do all that. So, he basically, he retired from comics, quote unquote. And, but still, the stuff that he did as highlight is just amazing. Just crazy amazing. So, here's a couple stuff that I know from having met him a couple times personally, and he living in Connecticut and going to the area, so you'd bump into him once in a blue moon. So, here was some stuff that was crazy. So, people don't realize this. When he was doing stuff on X-Men, what was the actual subscribers? I get this right. Let me not get hit. Avoiding getting hit today. That's pretty good. So, when he was doing X-Men, they were selling 400,000, 300,000 copies easily. Now, for those who don't know, and some who do, Marvel used to have an incentive program in place where that you would make, as the writer got 1 cent and the artist got 1 cent for every copy you sold over 100,000. Now, I want you to think about that for a second so you can see something scary. So, John Byrne, the X-Men, selling probably 500,000 copies easy, was making a penny off each one. So, 400,000, penny per each one, that's $4,000. Okay. Now that's your incentive pay. That's not your real money. That's not your real check. That's just your incentive pay on what you get. Then he gets his real pay on top of that. What he told us, which is quite amazing and disturbing, was that he said he got so much money at some points, he wouldn't even cash his check for his stuff. He wouldn't use that money for anything. His actual salary, he just put that in the bank and just left it there. His bonus money is what he mostly lived on. So, after he left Marvel, he had a ton of money saved up, which is not surprising. But then on top of that, you add on, oh, I'm traveling to cons every weekend. I'm selling art. I'm doing this stuff. He made a ton of money doing what he did. And a lot of people are like, wow, I didn't know he made that kind of money. Well, what even gets crazier, if you look at his Fantastic Four. His Fantastic Four was doing like $300,000, but he was doing the writing and the art on that. So he's basically getting double duty on that. So if he was selling, 200,000 copies, 2 cents a thing, another extra $4,000 every month, an extra $4,000. What would you do with an extra $4,000 every month on top of your regular pay? But you knew his regular pay was good. He had a solid regular pay, and then on top, make an extra $4,000 a month, dude. And then do the con scenes, which you figure, okay, anywhere I want to go for a con, they're paying for it, guaranteed. Do I get paid for it? Okay, well, I'll do art. I'll do sketches for like $50, full-on drawings for $100. And sketches take you like 5 or 10 minutes. You figure, you do 10 sketches a day, which would be easy. That's $1,000 right there. I'm sure he probably did more like 20 sketches a day. $2,000 in your pocket, plus the fee they paid you to come out. Dude, that's some good money. I'm just saying. Byrne did well for himself as an artist and as a creative. So I tell people, don't cry over him because he got older. And, it's not like it is now. He worked in the heyday of comics when the money probably wasn't the greatest, but the incentive money and the cons money was probably awesome. Now it's probably awesome, but you're not selling anywhere that has those numbers. You sell 100,000 copies now, it's like a minor miracle. So, here we go. All right, that's it for today. I'm going to have a busy weekend. I've got some work to do, but I'm hoping that you guys have some fun, do something creative, doing something exciting, put out a product. Apparently, as you see, I'm putting out new products. Oh, that's right. My new artist, we just dropped his newest image portfolio. He's got a free one and one for sale. Check out his free one. See if you like the art. If you do, buy his pay one. It's worth the money. I'm going to probably be doing some more work with him, so we're going to see a lot more of that. So I'll be, as always, giving more art out. So that's about it for me. You all have a good weekend. Thank you for watching. I do appreciate that. Monday, we'll be talking about some business stuff, of course, and something foolish has happened, of course, over the weekend, because that's all we do here, of course. But thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it. And you all have a good weekend and a safe weekend, because you never know. Talk to y'all later.